All right, Griffin, thank you very much for making the time to join me for our next installation of the Workplace Learning Talk Show. It's great to have
Yeah.
you on board. Today, we're going to be discussing understanding online meeting needs. With a previous session we discussed with Chad, I discussed how there's this paradigm shift where people are starting to work remotely, and there's a whole change in terms of learning with that paradigm. And so now people aren't getting together in a room anymore, and they're not discussing things in person where warm bodies are together in a room, but rather people are meeting remotely because more people are working disparately, either from home or from remote offices or from elsewhere. And as we know, COVID kind of brought this about, right? But now we want to discuss some of the hardware and software requirements that may be needed for people to be able to work remotely and be able to connect effectively with the people that they need to meet with. So great to have you with me today. And so what are your thoughts? What are some of the needs? Shall we start with kind of an overview of what you'd like to share, and then maybe move to hardware and then move to software, if that's a platform that'll work for you?
Sounds good. Yeah. And like you said, it's become so much more important now with COVID, with everybody working remotely, not only for work, but also for socializing, talking with family. As everybody has been separated from everybody else. With this global separation happening, it's become so important to make sure that you can still associate with people and work in a collaborative manner and have the whole experience be as seamless as possible. So I think let's start with microphones, right? Because the basis for communication nowadays is talking. Well, has always been for talking. There's you see the person you're talking to, and then you hear the people you're talking to. So let's start with microphone. Have you had any particular experiences with speaking with people and having the microphone either be really good and contributing toward a seamless interaction, or the complete reverse?
Yeah, I think that the worst cases normally come to mind first. Yeah, so I've had lots of training sessions with people or meetings with companies where individuals, even in a boardroom setting, had challenges with being audible. And of course, it's like you said, the goal is to communicate, right? So there's a decoding and an encoding and a decoding that's happening, and without the actual voice that's carrying the message, there's none of that happening. Or worse, we think we hear something, and it's actually not what the person is saying. So it's such an important aspect of a proper meeting to be held, an effective meeting to be held, is to be heard clearly. And so obviously the first step in that process, it has to be where the microphone picks up our voice and encodes it so that it can be transmitted to the other side of the meeting. And I totally agree with you. The quality of the microphone is so important.
And there are lots of different types of microphones you can buy. A lot more premium headsets, like similar to the one I have now, as well as Sony and Sennheiser headsets. They come with pre-built into it fantastic microphones. The technology that they use for active noise cancellation can contribute toward having a fantastic microphone experience. Now, for those who don't know, the higher end headsets from Sony particularly offer fantastic active noise cancellation. And for that to work, it has to have microphones throughout the headset, multiple microphones, to actually catch that noise and then to filter it out. Those same microphones can be used as well for meetings that you're doing with people. Now, what a lot of people don't understand is that there's a stereo mode and there's a hands-free mode with headsets like this. So when setting up a Zoom meeting or meeting with people on Discord or Teams, it's always better to pick the hands-free mode. Now, when it comes to wireless headsets, this is the case because a Bluetooth headsets can only transmit so much data at a time. In stereo mode, that is prioritizing HD audio quality, or close to it. Whereas with hands-free mode, it's also splitting that now toward your microphone to make sure that your microphone has as good noise, as good quality as possible.
Okay, I was going to ask what the difference is between the stereo and the hands-free mode. That's great. Thanks for clarifying that for us.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So
When it
so
comes,
so microphone quality. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but so
no,
microphone
it's fine.
quality is absolutely critical. What else would you think we need to really focus on if we want to be effective with meetings and for our communication to be clearly understood?
The next thing I would say is a webcam. Now, I say this, but I think everybody knows that most webcams aren't great. I think, especially the built-in webcams that come with laptops. The reason for this is that the actual camera itself is so incredibly small, they can't fit a big enough lens in there. Now, this becomes a problem because the bigger the lens, the more light can be transmitted through, and the more light it can capture. Now, you can have a very high resolution camera built into your display, but if it can't capture enough light, it's going to look pixelated anyway. It's not going to look great. This is why it's always suggested to buy a dedicated webcam. If you can afford it, and if your needs require it, a DSLR camera with built-in webcam features can be even better. It's kind of the next step. A little hack as well is using your phone. As you know, the phones nowadays have fantastic cameras. Even the front-facing camera is fantastic. So using that instead of your built-in laptop camera can also be a huge benefit. This can ensure that not only can you have fantastic video quality when calling with people, but also that the software you're using can clip out the background blur. Like as we can see with what Randall's doing right now, you can see it's trying to blur the background so you only see him, which allows you to focus on the person speaking rather than something distracting in the background that's going on.
Excellent. Yeah. And so we covered the microphone as part of the headset. Anything you'd like to add with regard to the quality of the speakers? Does it really make that much of a difference?
It actually does. It very much does, because you get two different types of headsets. You get closed back and you get open back. Now for me, I have closed back, but I turn on a feature that allows me to hear myself while I'm speaking. So it's easier for me to hear. But with closed back headphones like these, your own voice gets drowned out, especially with noise cancellation headsets. Open back headsets, which will be labeled on the box when you buy it. Open back headsets are much better for streaming or for recording or for meeting with people, because it's much easier for you to hear not only your surroundings, but also your own voice. It can be distracting for a lot of people speaking when they can't hear themselves. So speaker quality definitely makes a very big difference.
Okay, excellent. And your thoughts on in-ear headsets? That's one of my preferences, but I know that that there's a bit of a dichotomy as far as people's perceptions on that is concerned. Some people love it, some people hate it. What's your opinion about that?
I think in the end, it's more about what you're comfortable with. You can have an open back or closed back. You can have in ear, you can have over ear. It doesn't matter as much as whatever you're comfortable with. That being said, it's better to become comfortable with something that's going to be better for what you're doing. And in-ear earphones, due to the nature of in-ears, they block out a lot more noise, which makes it a lot more difficult for you to actually hear yourself. So
it does take some time to get used to.
Yeah, for sure. So in general, having open back is going to be better, but there's nothing wrong with using either, because like I said, you can still turn on, I forget the name of the feature offhand, but there's a feature that allows you to hear yourself. I'll mention it later if I remember.
Okay, excellent. Fantastic. So we've covered microphones, we've covered the camera quality, and we've covered speakers. And also the quality of the speaker, I also find some speakers tend to make things sound a bit more tinny or high-pitched. Yeah. Other speakers have a bit more of a deeper resonance. Obviously, the bigger the cone on an external headset, the better the chance that you're going to get a bit more bass through. So that's kind of probably more of a natural sound. as opposed to the smaller speakers, like the ones that are in an in-ear headset. You're not going to get quite as much of that nice bassy resonance that you get from a person's
The
voice,
roominess as
especially.
well.
Yes, yeah, and I mean, you've got a fairly deep voice, so it's actually nice to experience that, right? Okay, so those are three of the hardware preferences. Anything else that you'd like to mention?
There's one or two things. When it comes to, obviously, this very much depends on what your use case is. So, I mean, you can think of a lot of different use cases. There's you dealing with one other person, like what we have here. Then there could be conference meetings. You could be streaming to a lot of people, or maybe giving classes. So there's lots of different use cases when it comes to meeting with people online. I think meeting with family is probably the most popular. So depending on your use case, it's very important to invest into the computer gear that's going to help you specifically. Like I mentioned, DSLR cameras in comparison to webcams. DSLR cameras are very big and they're also very expensive. But if meeting with people, for example, doing streaming, if that is your career, you want to invest into what you're doing. It's very important to find what's going to help you. That being said, there are small steps that really, really help. First being lighting. A fantastic camera, a very expensive camera, is not nearly as important as having good lighting. You can have a fantastic 4K webcam, but if you don't have the right lighting, that webcam is not going to live up to its price. So I wanted to make that very clear. You don't necessarily need a green screen, although it can help. Having good lighting, or maybe even just recording in a time of day that's very bright. Like you can see behind me, I'm recording now at midday and it's very bright outside. So that can be a very big benefit. Otherwise, nothing else offhand that I can think of.
I've got another question. Thank you for sharing that. Would you like to mention anything with regard to comfort? So for me, as far as headsets are concerned, I prefer the in-ear, especially the Sonys that I have are very comfortable to wear and they're lightweight and they give me a good quality of sound. And of course, as you mentioned earlier, I've got that noise cancellation component as well, which makes a very big difference to my audiences from their perspective. But I find that over-ear headsets, if you wear your headset for a long periods of time, like I do during training and so on, then my ears get sore, and I know that you get different over-ear headsets with different shapes and different size cups and so on. What would you like to mention with regard to the comfort aspect?
So comfort plays a lot of different roles, I think more than people realize. So comfort not only makes it easy for you to focus on what other people are saying, and obviously nobody wants to be uncomfortable, but comfort also plays a lot psychologically. When you're comfortable, you're in your element. So if you sit back and you close your eyes and you get comfortable, it's easier for you to relax. This is especially important when it comes to giving courses online. Now, making sure your headset is comfortable, where you're sitting, the temperature, which obviously doesn't come out on camera, but for you sitting, making sure that you're in your most comfortable position allows you to speak to people more naturally, more how you would speak to somebody, from day to day. So it plays a very big part in that aspect. Yeah.
And on hot days, the other reason why I like the in-ear is because on hot days, the over-ear is just too warm,
Yeah.
And you can control the atmosphere in the room. But for me, if you're wearing it for a long period of time, that heat still builds up inside those cups. And I don't have that as much with the in-ear as I do with the over-ear. So for me, that's a preference. But like you said, depends on the context of what you're doing, depends on I suppose the shape of your head, the shape of your ears, and it depends on for how long you're wearing that headset per session that you have to sit with those on. So very interesting. Thank you very much. Fantastic. Thank you, Griffin. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. and for giving your recommendations, sharing your personal experience with some of the hardware and software. We know that you've done a fair amount of research as far as that's concerned. So I look forward to our next chat on another topic.
Yeah.
Just a message from our sponsor. So if you're looking to get some more information on the use of some of the things that we've mentioned today, for example, how to use Teams effectively when you're giving meetings, how to use Zoom effectively, and so on, please reach out to Successful Learning Solutions. We've got the right course for you, which will assist you to be effective at presenting your meetings. Next time, we'd like to focus on managing a remote team. We know that's going to be an exciting topic. It can be challenging at times, but we know that with the right training, you can be effective with that. So please join us next time for another exciting session of workplace learning.